Yeah. Here comes that energy flowing through you like the electricity that comes out of a keyboard when you hack right, apparently, according to this movie. Let's do it in reverse order. Let's hack this shit and introduce our guest first. Why not? Because we already heard his lovely voice.
Let's planet this hack.
Yeah. I just want to. I want this podcast to be completely ass backwards. So you say hi first.
Hi, I'm Tom. This is my voice.
That's right.
This is me hacking your lobes.
I'm a co-host who introduces themselves second. Now your mind's fucking blown. My name's Michael Swaim.
And welcome to Frame Rate. This is where we rate frames, and I'm your host, Abe Epperson.
Yeah, he went title in between and then the host's name. Makes no sense. I love it.
Okay.
What are we fucked up though? What are our sick hacker handles? You don't exist until you have a handle.
Oh fuck, Tom's right.
Well, I think it's clear. You go ahead.
I'm port forwarding.
You're port forwarding?
Port forwarding.
I kind of want to be SCSI interface, but I think as this bit just proved, I'm iconoclast with a 0 instead of an O.
And I'm millennium.matrix.
Hell yeah.
We're all getting jiggy with it because
I wear sunglasses everywhere.
You're a 40-year-old man in a trench coat with clove cigarettes.
You are skitching towards us in a cloud of clove smoke. We're talking about hackers today, as you probably guessed. And before we get too deep into it, we should shout out to Nerd Numbers, who brought you this episode. And I'll just say this, Nerd Numbers. It's like you don't even know me, man. I'll just look. Frame Rate started with Saving Private Ryan, and now we're here. We're watching hackers, and I think I've made it very clear on this network that I don't like movies that are so bad they're good. And I think that's the bullshit Nerd Numbers was trying to pull. But nevertheless, we very much appreciate you patronizing us at the Pick the Flick the level. And I will take the money. And I will sit down and grumpily watch Hackers for you. So I did this for you.
No,
we watched Hackers.
Yeah, we have a similar mantra over at GU. So you can pay us to watch anything. We will happily accept that
your money. We'll watch it with our eyeballs.
I'll watch whatever you want, man.
Honestly tell you what a huge steaming pile of pixelated shit it is. So let's get into it. I have never seen Hackers, quite intentionally.
Really?
I don't really know the difference between hackers, sneakers, and slackers, but now I do. Tom, what's your history with Hackers?
There's oceans of bits of difference between those three films, Mike.
Well, how far back does your Hackers history date, and how often of a watch is it for you?
Mine?
Yeah.
Not often. I've only seen this maybe 3 or 4 times. Hackers wasn't a movie I got into.
That's so many times to watch this movie.
I've
so many.
It's cult though. It's like watched. That's the thing.
It's a favorite among cyberpunk enthusiasts. I think mostly ironically, but also somewhat genuinely.
Yeah. It's mostly memes.
But also I think there's a little bit of genuine love for this film because I do think there's a few things that this film does interestingly. But this isn't a movie that I love. This wasn't a go-to favorite of mine. Like I saw it when it came out and then just immediately, I wasn't into computers and it, this type of cool just kind of passed me. I wasn't into this, so it sort of just I saw it once and I was like, okay, I've seen Hackers now. It was one of those movies you see because everybody at middle school was talking about it. So
Tom, you're right. It is cool. It is very cool.
Well,
it's so cool, Abe.
Yeah, it is. It's the coolest.
And then I've seen it once or a couple more times in the 27 years since it came out. So it was interesting to come back and watch it for this podcast because I'd seen it fairly recently. I think we probably watched it on a movie night maybe 2 years ago. But it's not a favorite of mine, so I did have to sit down and watch it and have thoughts about it.
Well, I'll tell you, on a recent Small Beans movie night, we watched SLC Punk, And I just never thought I would watch 2 Matthew Lillard movies in such quick succession in my life. When he popped up again, I was like, oh, God, he's following me now.
You're like, and you're also like, I bet I know what you're going to do.
Yeah, what's it? A little bit of hips, little bit of booty, a little bit of hips, a little bit of booty.
It's what we call opening your third eye, Mike. Watching 2 Lillard movies in a row.
Well,
now you can see through time and space.
I missed this when it came out, but I have a feeling if it did catch me at the appropriate time, I might have been all about it because I was busy drinking Mountain Dew Code Red, wearing No Fear shirts, and playing Sonic the Hedgehog at the time this came out. So, like, I am a sucker for extreme 90s cool. I think it's just, way too late. 2022 to see Hackers for the first time and try to think it's cool. It's just that ship has sailed, my friend.
Really?
Abe,
you didn't find it like quaint at all? Because you are a 90s dude, as you just pointed out. So like you remember this period of cool, though.
Yeah. I think nostalgic is the most generous term I can give it. Also, constantly like tickled and flabbergasted by just, all right, what is this shit that I'm seeing before me?
Right.
Like, is that Dr. Melfi from the fucking Sopranos?
It sure
my
is,
God.
Michael.
Like, what is... Oh, Penn Jillette now. Okay, why not?
Yeah.
Penn Jillette's in this movie. Fisher
In like
Stevens.
a meaning... Here's the other thing. Penn Jillette in a meaningless role.
Yeah.
Like, literally just there.
He doesn't
for, like,
need to be there. Like, that could have just been Fisher Stevens.
He's like a guy. He's the guy in the chair. Like, and they barely use him.
Oh, yeah, he just says stuff like, oh, he's hacking us, sir. I think it's a hacker.
Right,
I think it's a hack.
He's a role that would have been eliminated in one more draft.
That's right. That's right.
He would have just been folded into Fisher Stevens. He's completely unnecessary.
But they're just like, we got him. We got him.
We got Penn Jillette. We got a movie now.
Hey, what's your hacker cred?
My hacker cred is lukewarm in between the two of you. I watched it late, but like probably early college, and then never again until last night.
Did any of us hack in real life? Have you ever been into hacking or the idea of hacking? No? Okay.
I've been a keyboard cowboy once upon a time, but I wouldn't say I'm a hacker. I did get into computers and like coding. So but that's different from hacking.
I didn't think the movie Hackers was cool, but there was definitely a period where I thought hackers were cool. Like black hat, white hat. The idea of phone freaking and shit was awesome to me. I just knew it was beyond my reach.
The question is how cool? Because is it this cool?
Is it zero cool?
Is it zero cool? Is it the plague cool?
I mean, it's, you understand, we went from in Hackers is 1995. So in 4 years, we went from Hackers to The Matrix. So like Hackers were cool as shit in the 90s.
Yeah, that's shocking. They did operators instead in the Matrix.
It's so amazing to me the extent of how much they wanted this movie to be cool. Like even auxiliary aspects of hacking culture were still like special. For example, Wendell Pierce is in this, right?
He sure is.
Bunk from The Wire.
Fucking
and
Bunk.
he's like,
the Bunk.
And he's like a tech cop in this. Like he follows like
hackers,
he's
like an FBI cybercrimes guy. Yeah.
And I love that they give him an ear set. Like he's dialed into the net right now, just jacked in, you know?
Right. He's like receiving constant like internet updates. Like he's on that stock exchange.
Exactly. Ready to stop cyber wars. He's not a normal cop. And they do this for everything. It's like their nightclubs are slightly more hackery. Everything is a hack. It's amazing. Like, what is this nightclub that they're at? I don't know.
Yeah, it's the equivalent of the Monster Squad Treehouse. It's just, the sober 18 and under club to go hang out and talk about hacking and play video games.
And play a single video game.
Yeah,
one at a time.
Did you guys recognize the video game?
No, I don't know.
What was it? It's Wipeout.
Oh, okay.
It's Wipeout. What was I going to say? Oh, weirdly, this movie reminded me a little bit of Duets. If you guys ever watched Duets.
Yeah, I've seen Duets.
Nope.
That's the karaoke
road movie. In that it's a movie based on a universe in which there is an entire huge subculture around this very niche interest. And it's more true of hacking because there is a legitimate subculture. But like in the way Hackers represents it is that it's this whole underground existence, like the Thieves Guild and Waterdeep or some shit.
Or like
they have their own nightclubs. They have
John Wick does that with murdering
society.
people.
John Wick does that with murdering.
Exactly. Yeah. It's that would have probably been a better comparison, but my mind went to duets.
No, duets is better. Don't you change a thing, Tom.
Yeah, to the point that there's a hacking TV network that shows hacking TV shows hosted by hackers for other hackers
who are legitimately unhirable. Like those are two unhirable dudes.
Razor and Blade.
Yeah, they're snippy at everybody. They seem unapproachable, and they don't talk about what you talk about. They only talk about the TV show that they have. Actually, now that I'm saying it, it does sound like a lot of Hollywood people,
like producers we've talked to.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I'm wrong here.
But
yeah,
what's interesting is Hack the
amazing.
Planet is obviously a successful show. It has a real corporate sponsor. Jolt Cola sponsors Hack the Planet.
Yeah, that's right.
So this illegal pirate broadcast is, I mean, it doesn't have to make sense. It's fucking hackers, but is somehow they're doing sponsorship deals and selling time on the air.
Has
to
official ad partners on this pirate signal.
And yet when our heroes meet them, they point a robot gun arm at them because that's another thing. Hacking, and I know this is kind of true, right? Like you can call yourself a hacker if you took your vacuum cleaner apart and turned it into a blowjob machine. Like that's also hacking in some circles. But I don't know. I feel weird about the fact that they're like, hacking means you could build robots, you can go into cyberspace, you can it's
all tech.
Mastery with all tech.
We've got that more now, I feel, or at least it's more mainstream now because I'm aware of it with like the Internet of Things and shit like that. Like you were saying with like taking apart a vacuum cleaner and building it as something else. It is this weird idea that hackers are also like brilliant robotics engineers. It's just like it's like a catch-all for just, I don't know, tech genius. It's very funny.
Which is alive and well, by the way. Like when in Mr. Robot, which is known as one of the more I'll just say that it's known as one of the more tasteful versions of like a depiction of this society, right? It's like trying to be a little bit more real and does like the hacks or at least attempt to be what they are in real life. But they also have like sequences where they like, all right, we got to set up a real heist. And they're like, I got a friend who, he's in the hacker culture and also he can do like robotics or also he can do this. So it's still definitely like the technopunk trope to be like, we can form a D&D like group out of us. I think there's very much that nerd mentality of like the group can come together and be super powerful because we all have our unique abilities. I think that is a little bit of wish fulfillment by the these nerdy fucking screenwriters.
Well, they also only really gave that like a specialty to the phone freak dude. Gosh, what's his name? Matthew Lillard's serial killer.
His name is Phantom Freak.
Phantom Freak, thank you.
Yeah. They also do it with Lord Nikon, though. Lord Nikon is like
specialty?
Specific.
I forget photographic memory, but I forget what like his his hacker ability is. They call him Lord Nikon because
when they arrive at his doorstep, they say it real quick and then it's never mentioned. I forget what it is, but
I don't know, man.
Yeah. By the way, he lives in a graffiti hallway behind a door that reads Hackstock. Which I don't really know what that means.
I lost my mind when I saw Hackstock.
Every choice is perfect.
Every phrase that is just casually thrown out in this movie knocked me out of my seat.
Yeah. Dude, now we're getting into the butter zone.
Yeah, now you're in the butter zone. If you want to be epic, you've got to pull off a righteous hack.
A righteous hack.
You don't
exist until you have a handle.
God damn, when he answered, so when Fisher Stevens answered the phone and he's like, has a cloak on or whatever, and he says, when they call him by his name, Eugene, which is perfect, by the way. That's like the perfect name to actually have in this movie. And like his first line is, my name is Plague.
The Plague.
Right.
Mr. The Plague.
Mr. The Plague.
They undermine him immediately because he wakes up in this cloak, in this shitty, like he lives in a 12-year-old's room and he's adult Fisher Stevens.
Yeah, exactly.
And he wakes up at like noon because Penn Jillette's calling him and he's like, Mr. Eugene, there's a problem. And he's like, my name is the Plague. And then Penn Jillette very condescendingly says, okay, Mr. the Plague.
Something is happening on the net, to which he replies, as in what, you hapless techno weenie?
Yes, dude, perfect.
And then the next time we see him, he's gliding into the server room,
really
which looks like Grayskull.
Yeah.
And he's gliding in on a skateboard with his coat,
the trench
just
coat,
billowing behind. It's every part of his introduction is
I think
cinematic
the
marvel.
moment of the movie that actually got the biggest laugh out of me was when he skateboards out of a fog bank, holding onto a car to just ride by, grab the disc from our hero, and then keep skating away. And then the hero runs after him for some reason, and then stops.
Yeah. And then it's like and then they have the futuristic, like, or like the futurist version of like steam coming up. It's like actually a nice shot, but that's the moment I literally like leaned back in my chair and did the Antonio Banderas meme. Like, so good. This is perfect.
If we're talking actual technique and like effort that the departments on set put in,
right,
I find it ludicrous but interestingly consistent that in the hackers universe, what's on your computer screen is projected onto your face.
Yeah.
Like light from your screen is so bright, you can read words of text on people's faces when they're looking at their computer.
Yeah, that's what the credit I was going to give this movie at the beginning when I said it does do some interesting things. That's exactly it. Like it's, if you compare it to like another sort of hacking thriller that came out the same year as this, The Net. The Net is like boring as shit. In addition to being bad, it's boring as hell.
So they actually tackled the challenge of hacking is boring. Can we make it look cool? And they tried some shit.
Yeah. They do a thing, and it's consistent. It's not just like doing flair for the sake of flair. It takes this like dreamlike otherworld almost quality when they're hacking, and it's pretty interesting. Like it's a good idea at least to make typing on a computer like seem more cinematic and engaging for the audience. And I thought that was neat.
Interesting. Yeah, it's also like you got to remember the time it was in, right? So like there's a lot, like if you look at the critical response at the stuff, like it was very glowing, they compared it to the net, and they're also like, this is stylistic nonsense, this is like pulp, the like lowest form of pulp, but it did make it the visuals are slick, you know, like people were convinced by this movie's like technical prowess, I think, at the time. Even though like Jurassic Park had come out, everyone knows that, you know, like the rest of movies were on a different learning curve than Spielberg, so it's like they still very much thought that Hackers was like a pretty well done thing. Even though if you look at like some of the critical responses and the reviews, they're dragging it mainly, as they should, as just being a vapid story.
Yeah, Coca-Cola product placement everywhere. I mean, it's not it has no lofty goal or moral. It's just like, this is cool, that's cool, let's make some money, guys, let's make a movie.
Yeah, it's cool.
The funny thing about the Coca-Cola thing is also that like they didn't overdo it. They only do it twice, but they do it twice within a whole movie within 2 minutes.
That you're like, whoa, someone paid
and you
for
go
that.
Like, now I notice Coke a lot. Now that's in my head. And it's like, it's not that, like if they spaced it an hour from each other, I don't think we would have the same opinion on that. But if that's just me.
If only Mountain Dew had come out with Gamer Fuel at this point.
By this time.
That would perfect tie-in.
Red Code? Are you kidding?
Yeah. I also kind of liked the almost 2001 homage of when they're doing really good hacking and it like pushes through a model of a circuit board that's really long and thin very quickly. Although it led to some confusion because I wrote in my notes, did he just hack so hard that electricity ran across an office building? But I think that's the server stack. Am I right about that? Which is just like lucite cubes in a room.
Yeah,
probably.
It's
not
clear.
Gonna lie.
You
can
clear
say anything.
you know,
and I
like,
agree.
that. Yeah, it's in the mind of the director.
I guess if I could ask the director one thing, it would be, did you intend to imply that he can hack electricity to like does he have power over the flow of electricity? Because there's other parts where hacking is responsibly mundane, in the sense that it makes hackers, and Mr. Robot does this too. And in fact, the other thing this movie immediately made me think of was the cybersecurity trainings that I have to watch every year for my corporate job. Because they often hammer home the point repeatedly and quiz you on it at the end that like most hacking into a corporate environment is not done by type. Oh, I'm in. I found the kernel or the back door, but through some combination of phishing or calling a security guard and tricking them into telling you something like the IP of the server or whatever. So when it starts and Zero Cool, aka Dade, his first maneuver is like refreshingly grounded, and then it's never that again. Then it's like, I shoot lasers out of my keyboard. They
hint at it. There's a with Jesse Bradford when he says he got into just a random system, and then he gradually realized it was a bank. And by the time he was done, he got a random ATM machine in Idaho to spit out $700. Like, I thought that was good as well, along those same lines, where it's like it makes it seem realistically mundane, but still like kind of cool. Like you'd be like, oh, that's kind of cool that you did that.
I guess what throws me
stumbling into it
is when they start doing the brilliant mind shots of physics equations flying by his head because he's hacking. Like, what does that even mean?
Yeah, it's like in an alien language too. It's not really math. It's just hovering over his dumb face.
He wears a hacking eye patch at one point.
I love
when they're in Grand Central Station with his hacking monocle, his future monocle.
Oh yeah, baby.
Looks like an augment from Cyberpunk 2077.
That's kind of interesting to me that when, like, because in the end, for all these things where they're like, and they do the math thing all the time, and like, I don't know, Hangover did it right as a joke, but like, to me, when you get down to it, this I guess when the rubber finally meets the road, to the creators of this movie, hacking is just math. Like, it's like, why make your movie about this if you care to pick the actual thing about the people? Like, the people they're arguably in a laughable culture.
I mean,
and it's a heist movie, so who really cares? But like, honestly, like, you're not even attempting to try to understand what hacking is. It's funny to me. They're just like, no, that's uninteresting. This is better visuals, and they're right about that.
I think it's what's a funny thing about it is they clearly understand at least some of it. It's like the examples that Michael and I just cited, where it's like, they definitely know what hacking actually
really
is, or at least
accomplishes.
Somebody at some point actually knew what hacking really is, and then like most of the rest of the movie is just like, yeah, but what if it was like cool?
yeah. What if we just
what if it's like the key?
What if it was a whirling void of equations that literally made electricity arc across the surface of the computer? And you're like,
and listen, I would be the first dude in that room that would be like, what if it was that? Yeah! Like, stand up so fast I flip my chair over.
Can we talk about like first image of our main character a little bit?
Should we?
Like, as a little boy? As a little boy?
Not as I mean, the little boy does some work for us, but like the first time we actually get to know Zero Cool, aka
Dade.
Crash Override.
Oh, later his name is Crash Override.
That's right.
Yeah, but like, because the two images we get is, first off, he's watching The Outer Limits. It's the scene where he's doing more hacking, and he's now an adult boy, and he's watching The Outer Limits with his sunglasses on. So first thing we know is he's like a verifiable like freak, but like then he says yak yak yak.
Yep, all the hallmarks of a
job.
freak. Checking all the boxes, watching Outer Limits with sunglasses on. This guy's a freak.
This guy's a freak. Yak yak yak, get a job.
Well, he says
Which
that
is-
after the racist talk show host goes on a tirade.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But like, what is he saying there? Is that him non-ironically saying yak yak yak, get a job to that host?
I
through
think
the
so.
TV?
I think
Or
so.
is he saying this is all these TV shows do? Yak yak yak, get a job, like be a part of society, because that's the other thing that this movie does is they make hackers like the antenna of society.
I would say probably the first thing, because what the
Interesting.
racist talk show host is ranting, I don't think his rant has much to do. Like, he's not saying get a job. I don't.
He's not saying get a job.
At least not in my memory. I think he's just ranting. I think he's just being racist.
Why would you say get a job to like a racist?
Because the writing's bad, Abe.
The
Later,
writing's bad, yeah.
later,
No, it's not
Eugene
that bad.
says, "Oh, and Dade, try to stay out of trouble, okay?" And Dade says, "Blow me," and Eugene says, "Thank you."
Yeah.
What? It's not snappy or clever. Like I
think I'm right about this.
All right,
Maybe.
highly intentional.
I mean, you're right. It's bad writing, but like, it's not like inconsistent writing like this, where it's like I'm just not going to talk. I'm going to talk about some other thing.
At one point,
Maybe they
Matthew
didn't
Lillard
wanna-
spots
Oh,
a hot
sorry.
chick and says, check out that pooper, man."
Yeah.
Yeah, they do
Incredible.
talk about a-
incredible.
I didn't know. Like, I actually.
I bet she takes some mean
Hold
dumps,
on.
yo.
Let's talk about that moment. So they're in a club, and he says something about a pooper, and then they talk about how spandex is a privilege, not a right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I actually, again, possible misread of the situation. I thought someone shit themselves in there while looking at it.
Well, it's
because they're like, look at that pooper. Oh man, spandex is a privilege, not a
Like
right.
you ruined your lycra
Yeah, it's
shorts
just-
by
yeah.
shitting in them.
I don't know.
I think
also
it's a
kind
hot
of
chick.
it's well, that's what I was gonna I guess posit is it's to me it was a little unclear of whether he was speaking approvingly of said pooper, because he says
Right.
he's like, check out that pooper, man, spandex is a privilege, not a right. And it's like he could mean that the
It's
ass is too
anomalous.
fat for
Too fat, too
spandex,
weird. Yeah.
too weird, too blocky,
That's what I thought.
too
Yeah.
jagged. If it was me,
Or
if
they-
it was me out there, it would definitely be too jagged.
It's too angled.
Yeah,
Or
too
you could be
angular of a
talking-
pooper.
Or you could be talking about someone who is pooping.
Yeah,
right
that's
now.
true. Just ripping a shit right out there.
The
on the-
same scene, I think he
Talk about a
describes.
pooper.
Oh, it's Kate, Angelina Jolie. Her wetware matches her software, which is
That I didn't. I'm not even sure what that
that's
means.
so uncomfortable. I don't any.
It's very uncomfortable.
But if we
that's
unpack
right.
it, anything it could mean is just awful.
Yeah.
We were just checking out your fly laptop. Don't mind us. You're in the butter zone now. That's the same scene. That
Man.
scene has a lot to give. Not the least of which is the fact that 5 dudes are in a fairly well lit room, just like watching 2 people bone, and somehow they do not notice. It's. I did not understand the geography
they're so
of that scene.
enraptured by this laptop.
Life. Yeah, man.
There's I mean, I know
Life
it's
moves fast.
1995, which means it was probably, this movie came out like September, so it was probably filmed either early 1995 or even in 1994. So I get it. Technology was dated, but it was still very, very funny to hear them freaking out over like a 28.8 modem.
That's right. I believe one of the selling points is it's got 1 million colors. 1 million colors to stoke your imagination, dude.
That's still pretty dope.
Let's see. I had something good, and it's slipping away like someone has hacked into my brainstem.
It's slipping
You
away
gotta
like
actually
Fisher
fuck.
Stevens on a skateboard.
That's
the way
right.
the way they treat, she's like the queen of the hackers, right? Because she's like acid burn, and she's like the best of them, and she's also rich somehow. So you get the feeling she steals a lot of money or whatever. So she's, got that edge. Plus, the movie goes out of its way to make her extremely hot.
Nipples.
It's funny.
I was going to talk about Angelina Jolie's nipples.
they're dropping nips. In this.
Is speaking of the year it came out, like, is that an aspect of the fact that we have 4K resolution or whatever now, or remaster.
No,
but
that was.
No.
I remember that from
her
being
nipples are visible through her shirt in that overhead shot.
Oh yeah. I remember that
There's
from
multiple
being
shots.
being a 7th grade boy watching this
Oof.
movie. Yeah, I remember that, and I felt like, I mean, I felt like this. There was a period in like the mid '90s where like a lot of PG-13 movies were throwing nips at us, like this Fifth Element. I feel like there's one or two others that stuck out in my mind at the time, but it was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Big
assumed
nips.
it was
Big
one of
nips
those
energy.
HD upgrade issues.
No, that was always there. It gets weirder each time I watch it. It's like, nobody say anything while they were filming this.
But
There's
Abe, you were
a
saying
holy
about
fuck, though.
Kate.
I was just saying that like everyone, but I guess because they're like he's the special boy, you know, they do some weird shit with their relationship in this movie. Like,
Oh yeah.
I'm not even talking about like they almost fuck in a trash pile, which is definitely true, but that seems like on brand. But they also do weird stuff. Like there's one scene where the way they're flirting is they're like aggressively like juking each other out by like, I'm gonna like tackle you right now, like I'm gonna hurt you. And then the probably boldest offender is when they have their prank war or whatever, they have their game. Zero Cool literally is like, if I win, we go on a date and you have to smile. You know, it's like,
It says you have to wear a
God.
dress.
No, he says you have to smile.
Oh, really?
Then they
then
escalate
later
the
says,
date.
and you're
gonna
Yeah,
wear a
they
dress
talk
on our
about-
date, and
she
she
says
says,
you're also gonna-
"If I win, you also will." But yeah, he does imply that she'd be prettier if she smiled. When he first sees her, we just cut to clips of people making out from various movies, which I thought was an
Right,
interesting
it's like
technique.
there's like a dream on element to this. If you guys
totally.
and listeners ever watched that HBO show Dream On, where the
Great
premise
show.
was Brian Ben was like raised by TV, so the gimmick of that show would be that it would cut away sort of like Family Guy style to a clip from an old TV show or movie that was relevant to whatever was happening on screen, and
it's
that was
more stream of consciousness.
it's supposed to be his thought process. And this movie does that too with Zero Cool Dade, with Johnny Lee Miller's character.
Well, when he hacks, the first time we see him hack, it cuts to a bunch of footage of sword fights and cowboy duels, which is interesting to me that literally they're like, hacking's not boring, hacking's cool. Cut to something else happening. Like, in order to make hacking seem cool, they literally have to cut away to people actually fighting instead of fighting with computers. Which almost seems like an admission of defeat that hacking is mundane, but
Yep.
But they also stopped doing that. Like, they only do that Dream On thing, I think, twice in the first half of the film. Do they bring it back?
Clumsily drop it. Yeah. They could have developed it and it would have felt more like the DNA of the movie. Like, I don't know, for example, in a movie like Ferris Bueller or Cuffs, the breaking of fourth wall. I'm only mentioning Cuffs because Tom and I just watched that stupid movie. But yeah, they're talking about like, I guess, like, what do you call this? Like, cause like there are structural breaks or like format decisions that the filmmakers made, to kind of develop different systems like that. Like that's one you mentioned. The other one that I picked up on is the way they do large, wide establishing shots. They usually do skyscrapers and office buildings. And even in the intro, when it says like Hackers, the title screen, they include like a transition from like a landscape looking down, like helicopter footage looking down at a city that dissolves into a circuit board. Yeah, and I think that that's
also the last shot of the movie, I believe.
Right, they're doing some kind of transitions exist to like kind of meditate or give you the time to meditate.
The whole city is the hacking, man.
Yeah.
Hack the planet, dude.
It's true that like microchips and some futurist architecture we have in cities exist. I think though, you're looking at the years, this kind of filmmaking wasn't largely common in the 80s, 90s. I think Dream On and stuff like that is a good reference. I think this particular trope about the city inclusions, I think that's directly from, Tom probably knows, 92 Candyman.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, it's like Yeah, so that's 3 years before. Candyman does these transitions showing like the relative power dynamics of city layouts. And I think that made such a splash that honestly, hackers, the filmmakers were probably like, we're as good as Candyman.
We're going to do that Candyman thing.
We're going to do that shit, which I love. One of my favorite parts about just seeing how the film grammar develops over time. I bet it was Candyman. I don't have, proof, but it just feels very similar.
Speaking of the way they clumsily handle the relationship between Kate and Dade and dreams and dreaming and dream on, I think one of the weirdest things about their relationship is that they both literally dream of each other. And
yeah, they have like a shared dream about them fucking in red vinyl.
Yeah, and then Secret Service agents bust in and arrest one of them is also part of the shared dream. Oh, incidentally, now this is a tangent on a tangent, but it was weird to me how often the SWAT team or the Secret Service people would come in with fully cocked shotguns, like any wrong move, and they're blowing a child's head off.
I mean,
like they were putting like loaded cocked rifles so close to children's heads and like pumping the shotgun for effect. I was just like, whoa, all right, hold on now. And that they're aware of that dynamic because they even have that scene where the cop says, like, there's an anonymous manifesto, which is eerily similar to the real shit anonymous posts these days. And it's just interesting that so long ago, we already knew this delineation where the cop's like, this isn't cool. It's commie bullshit. Like, man, that old saw, like that delineation's been set up for a long time. But regardless, I just want to say, those were the most weirdly structurally placed dream sequences I've ever seen in a film. It's as if they scrolled through the script and were like,
I agree.
Dream sequence, nowhere to really comfortably put this dream sequence. Just drop it in.
It's like they couldn't figure out a reason for these two characters to connect, even though it was already there. Like, they're fiercely competitive with each other. Like, she wants the credit that she's not really being given because she's a woman in this group, and he wants the credit because he's the new guy. So they're like fiercely competing with each other. It's like, that's it right there. Like, we don't need them to also have a weird shared dream. It's really, really strange to drop in this supernatural element in the middle of this cool 95 cyber thriller.
Yeah.
They don't even keep it exclusive to the romantic story line. 'Cause also they do this weird thing where Freak has a dream that he gets arrested, and then he actually gets arrested in the same way.
He sure does.
And I was like, why did you... That's like the structure of a joke. Yeah. Like, do they think this is funny?
Do you think this is funny, Hackers team? Is this a joke to you?
You think this shit is fucking funny?
All right, boy meets world.
Know why they did
hacking, bro.
Like, I don't know the meaning of that. Like, why also go to Freak and say, also, let's see his dreams. Okay, I'm on board, Hackers. And they're like, okay, it was just a dream, just like you expected.
It's like
good, Hackers,
it's like somebody landed on dreams that day, and then they were just like, oh shit, and just started throwing
they
dreams.
Just wanted to
throw
it everywhere in the script.
It's like the hacking of the mind that your brain does to you when you're asleep.
It's true. They are mind hacks.
Damn, dude, that's esoteric.
I think, as we pointed out, though, there's definitely, I don't know, there's cringy stuff about the fact that Kate is the female character. Like, now that I know the nipples thing is canon, so to speak, it's just shocking to me that in the montage, he paints his they're like, what makes it cool? Like, he's preparing to hack. And it's like, well, he could paint his computer camo colors. Well, he could stand in front of the mirror like Taxi Driver and whip floppy disks out of his jeans, which, by the way, is not cool, but I understand what you're trying to do. And then hers is, I'll show my nipples.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. I also love that, like, in any modern movie, when he defeats her at video games, I thought he was going to get second place. Didn't you? To give him room to grow? It's weird to me that he immediately beats her and it's like, I am better than you because I'm a boy.
I'm talking about. It's like, that's the thing. We also saw it in 99 with in The Matrix Neo. Like, I know that's a different story, but he has to be the best at everything. It's necessary because it's like a slight to the subculture that you're not like pushing that hero in all things, which is funny because heroes are usually made.
Does he ever
by
dunk on
humbleness.
Trinity? Do they ever like play pickup basketball
No.
and he just wrecks
No,
her?
they don't. But they
Yeah.
do gamify the learning, and they're like, no one's ever done it.
Yeah.
Although,
Oh, that's
You know
true.
what? You're right. They do shame him because he doesn't make the jump the first time.
There's,
I kind of take it back, I guess.
There's a little bit of, because when when he first meets Acid Burn as he's fucking around with the automatic tape player at the local TV station, she beats him there.
She beats him at hacking, and he says,
Yeah.
"Shit on me."
Yeah, he does. He sure does.
I love how their flirt prank wars escalate at the start of the film.
Yeah.
Like, she just tells him to go up to the roof, and it happens that it rains, so he gets drenched because the intention is to lock him.
Right,
lock
yeah,
up
there's
freshmen
no
in the
There's no
pool on
roof.
the roof. Yeah,
And
it's
transfer
In
students.
return,
classic
he
freshman
douses-
hazing.
He douses the entire student body in water.
Mhm.
It's just classic. This guy is designed to be like, I'm going to take things out of proportion.
Mhm.
I am going to, if you prick me, I'm going to stab you. It's
Abe,
very toxic.
he's the Joker, baby.
He's the Joker, baby. He's the Joker, baby. It's so good. It's so good.
This movie also taught me that the most common passwords people use are love, secret, sex, and God.
The worst passwords in the world.
Well, I just think it's shocking that even at this time, password is not in the list.
I think
Did we not? Don't you instinctively know that that's the most common password?
Well,
when they said,
that's the
"Hey,
joke.
what's the most common password in the world?" as like a quiz, my brain immediately thought, "Well, password 123." Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's become more of the common one. So I know, like, some of the manifesto, at least this is what I read, some of the hacker manifesto and some of the sort of statistics that they pull in this movie, specifically the password thing, does come from actual research that the screenwriter did into the subculture. I think he was writing an article or something in the early 90s. So again, this is what I read. I'm not sure if this is how true this is, but based on that, I think that information was probably true at least in the early 90s, when it was still like, it wasn't people having to come up with 80 different passwords for all the different things they have to do, which is where password came from, where it's like, well, I don't want to have to remember 80 different things, and I don't care if somebody breaks into this account, so I'm just going to type password.
Right.
Well, I'll just say
I could see
here
that
are
being
the
true.
most common passwords leaked through data breaches in 2022. QWERTY, password, 12345, 1Q2W3E. Like, those make sense to me. Sex, secret, God, they don't make sense to me as something a lot of
think it's
people would jump to.
Right, because it's also a niche culture at that time. So I could see that being true, what Tom says, just because, like, it was so small, the size, the index of, like, what's your password.
Right.
It's all people who are like, yeah, this is my life.
is
I'm going to
cool.
attach it to my identity. It's a little different finding a password for them, or like a username. Now our usernames are like, just whatever, 1 2 3 4. Now
XXX
they have to, like,
Vegeta XXX.
yeah, now I am the freak. I am, like
the plague.
The plague. Yeah. It's like everything is a little bit more tailored to the nuance of the fact that there's only like 10 of them.
I feel like for the sake of this hacking the episode bit, we should do a synopsis now. But I'm not going to make us. I'm not going to.
I don't want to.
I just like the idea that would make the podcast fully
That would be
backwards.
funny.
Yeah.
But no, thank you.
But what we haven't talked about is the crux of the plot, which just the fact that it's tipping over oil tankers by hacking into them and making them like take on too much ballast. And the idea is that the plague and Dr. Melfi are pretending to be hacked by releasing a Da Vinci-based virus, like a Vitruvian Man virus, to cover up the fact that they're doing an Office Space. That's what I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
They're doing the same scam from Office Space. Or I forget what movie it's from, but I think it's an episode of The Office where the kid's like, my dream's to have like a company where like whatever you do, whatever transaction, I get like 2% of that transaction. Like, okay. And yeah, it's some kind of, so we get to this delicious place at the end where they're like, Matthew Lillard is asking, or he's going, oh, the plot thickens. Is it a hack or is it the worm?
Right. It's both, Mike.
It's both. That's the tricky thing. And you've got an animated Vitruvian man calling itself Da Vinci, telling people like this is going to happen to you. It's very Jurassic Park, Nedry.
I also love like Lawnmower Man and a bunch of others. Like digital essences will feel pain and cry when
they get deleted. Yeah, they go, oh no.
Which I guess is like kind of a takeaway from like 2001 and Dave
singing
stop.
Daisy.
Yeah. But like but like that's not that. He just slows down and stops. He doesn't go like no.
Right, his intelligence is regressing into
Yeah. It's just funny that a lot of these movies did this. Screaming digital avatar.
Yeah. The destruction of the digital soul.
Right. I got another thing.
Please.
Kind of more about the hackers being like the on the front lines of like knowledge and like a little bit of the finer kind of conversations in society, like randomly quote Orwell or Ginsberg or just ponder some deep shit while they're smoking and holding circuit boards. I find that one of the more like, I don't know about you guys, but I find it one of the more fascinating relics of the past is watching how irrelevant and like ambitiously attempted prophetic like it's intended on being. Like it's so strange to watch in 2022 where you're like, none of this shit was right, but they totally swung big for this is how like the future is going to look. And this is the way things are going. And only a few people are in the know and you need to be in the know now. That's so amazing.
That's the essence of cool though, is exclusivity, right?
But I think it's genuine. It's not like, we know we'll probably be wrong. It's like, no, this is the way it's
I
going.
read a quote from the screenwriter where I'm paraphrasing, but he said like after spending, hanging out with these people and listening to them and writing about them, he like said, this is the next evolution. Like he literally said that.
Right.
It's a wake up call for the Nintendo generation.
Yeah. He fully believed this was what the future was going to be. So I do think it's at least in part genuine, but like the quoting Ginsberg and the Bible and like showing them being well read in all these different areas, more so philosophy. The Bible thing is like a joke that they do toward the end of it. But it's the fact
that they can hop into any pocket of society. That's something that also Mr. Robot does, is like, for temporarily I will just become an office manager. Why? Because my skill set allows that I am intelligent enough to talk in the way that an office manager would.
I'm hacking human behavior. I'm just being that.
Yeah, exactly.
What I was going to say is that's like an old movie shorthand for like to show us that somebody who is in like an outsider culture is actually pretty smart and refined. Like they always do that, where they show him like, oh, he knows poetry, or oh, they know this obscure fact about presidential history or something. It's like, it's such an old trick that movies do.
Serial killer quotes Ozzy Osbourne, right? Instead,
he does. Yeah, he does.
To show the full range. And then Kate quotes a book, her own mom's book called
by her mom. Yeah,
Women Who Love Men Who Are Emotional Amoebas. And I've spent so long trying to figure out what an emotional amoeba what that means metaphorically. An emotional parasite makes sense, but what's an emotional amoeba?
Amoeba's not a parasite.
I don't really get it.
I think it's just it's conflating things, and I think that happens a lot.
Maybe she means their emotions are as underdeveloped as an amoeba. They're a single cell organism in terms of being emotional.
Men are from Mars, women are from a tennis court, and you're like, I don't know what you mean by that.
What is the properties of tennis court and femininity that you're saying? I don't know.
Oh, but we mentioned earlier, like, oh, Angelina Jolie has a ton of money for some reason. That's why I had forgotten that. Her mom is like a best-selling self-help book author.
Everything's from the frame of reference of she is she's the mother's daughter, so her version of the world is like, all right, this is how like life goes. So I guess maybe that's what they're trying to say, is that she's limited in her scope, but that's the opposite of what they want to say with the character, because she is like worldly and can get into any room,
and seems like
so
she knows more
bizarre.
than you at any time. Yeah.
Very suspect.
There's a
Beat
second
choices.
hacking monocle. I guess it's just a telescoping monocle, but I just want to point out the other monocle moment when Nikon is judging how difficult Angelina Jolie's bra was to get off. He deems it a 7. And then he puts a little monocle in place so he can like verify that. That's my only note, other than the fact that, you know how movies will sometimes have one image or one shot that perfectly sums up the whole experience. I love that in this film, there's a climactic moment where it's just a close-up of a neon thing that's flashing. Garbage, garbage, garbage. That is the film in a nutshell to me.
That's what you think it is.
Yeah, that's right.
I like that. You're coming in hot. I admire it. It's still like mimetic in a way that only few movies are, though. You have to admit that, right? So
yeah.
Even more than, well, we covered Wizard recently, and I think even more than Wizard, yeah. Like, I get why memes would spawn from it. Like, Wizard has some really high highs, because Wizard had, I love the power glove. It's so bad.
It's so bad.
Yeah. But this has like 9 of those, and that's a pretty... Even though that is not my thing, as I stated at the top, watching movies for their mimetic potential, I can recognize objectively that this shit is mimetic as shit. Like... This is that movie. This is that conflagration of random nonsense. It's like
nonsense. The Room,
in
a way.
There are so many huge offers in just the first 30 minutes of this film.
Yeah, big ass swings. Poorly comped green screen shots with equations flying by his head. Just
Fisher
amazing
Stevens
moments.
again skateboarding into the Thunderbirds set, which is their server room.
Yeah. When people are or are not on rollerblades, there's no rhyme or reason to it. Yeah.
Every time I go to a club, I always bring my rollerblades, but they never have ramps there.
Yeah.
Just this kid bringing this new kid at school, bringing his rollerblades to school his first day. Like, that's, man, I was in school in 1995 too. I'd have got the shit beat out of me when I brought my rollerblades.
Like, if a shot had jibbed down under the table to reveal Penn Jillette was also wearing rollerblades, that would be fine. It would fit right into this movie.
It would just be like, hey, they just love rollerblades. That's cool. It's just
I can't think of like the rollerblades felt a little dated for 95 for me. Maybe I'm misremembering.
Yeah.
But that was like kind of right around the height, so maybe not. It was like early to mid 90s.
All the rage, man.
But it's coming back now.
It's
I
swing music.
feel like, especially if he's in high school in the 90s, which is only like worse. But like I was in middle school, and boy, oh boy, I would have just got bullied into just atomized dust if I brought my rollerblades to
school. Would have been crushed and snorted.
Like, what are you doing?
I just
they're hackers. They don't care about being
again
bullied
recently. Little bit of rollerblading. It's fun.
I wish buckles on clothes would come back.
Oh yeah, like Jinkos.
Just like buckle it up. Just throw a buckle on it.
Give me a bunch of belts. Make me look like a Jim Lee X-Men drawing.
Yeah.
Well.
Look like Pinhead going to a raid.
I'm just looking at my notes. Nothing's cooler than riding on a motorcycle and just holding the helmet.
Oh, yeah. And you can tell, or I feel like maybe I'm projecting onto her, but that she's a little nervous about the stunt. Jolie is like, her body's tense like a whippet. And she's like very, as they're like, okay, movies. This person's going to drive you away on a motorcycle. You don't put your helmet on because that makes you kid.
Yeah, that's true. That's probably it.
Yeah, supercomputer overloads with electricity and melts down physically. Like, I mean, that's just shocking to me.
There's a running thing that they do that they drop. They're trying to do like a 1984 thing where they like all of the enemies of the hackers are like on the screens of the hackers. Like we always see like a video message left by the plague, or at one point inexplicably, as if they dropped a whole sub like plot with Wendell Pierce where he appears on a monitor and he just says, "I'm watching you."
Yeah.
It's just like, and then he cuts off the screen. And I was like, why is he on the TV?
Well, and
Like,
in
what is he doing
exchange
there?
to get back at him and I guess help their friend, they
Right.
have escalating hacks against him, which I put in air quotes because it's just like they post a Craigslist ad saying, "I want hot gay sex," essentially, and have people call him. That's not hacking. That's just fucking with someone using a public forum.
Someone.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just thought it was interesting that they went that way, but they didn't seem to do much about it. Like it's just something that they wore for one scene and just abandon it, which is very classic of this movie.
I mean, they have lots of different changes of outfit. It's like, I think in a SLC Punk movie night, we were talking about this too, but these people are more affluent. So I guess I can buy it. Like to be so into fashion and style, it was being pointed out in chat that like punk clothes, they are wearing punk clothes in that movie, but they're new clothes. And that's just not viable. Punks are all like crusty and dirty and full of holes. And it felt like, I mean, so many subculture movies have that issue where it felt like a stylist put together a cool hacking uniform,
Right?
More than someone who claims to not care about any of that shit just threw something on.
It's hard to do.
Yeah.
It's hard to do.
It's hard to do authentically worn, grounded, like laziness. Yeah, even because if you make a space in a movie messy in a realistic way, it feels even messier. Am I right about that? Where you'll be like, that person's a fucking hoarder is what comes across. And you're like,
yeah.
So to make a messy, like a normal messy room, you got to make it pretty clean with just a little stuff out of place. It's interesting how we overestimate that.
Elegant. It's like a little dance you have to do. Absolutely.
All right, well, I'm talking about SLC Punk and shit, so I'm ready to call it. Have we hacked the planet?
I think we've completed this righteous hack.
We hacked the planet.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The bar that was the climax of our podcast has finally gotten to 100. The virus has screamed, "Help me!" and faded away, and we're all set. Well, thanks so much for joining us for this wild adventure, Tom.
Thanks,
Your
Tom.
bits made it much more delightful than it would otherwise be. Always a pleasure to talk to you. Where can people find you jabbering on without me interrupting you?
Oh, man. I get into the jibs and the jabs over at patreon.com/gamefully unemployed. That's where me and David Bell do all kinds of cool stuff. We got podcasts, exclusive podcasts, movie nights we do with patrons, a whole bunch of different tiers you can check out if you head over there, including similar to your guys' Pick the Flick. We have a tier where you can make us watch movies and talk about them. Commission your own podcast, miniseries, all kinds of stuff that you can look into. And you can find me at you can find me on the socials if you want. That's pretty much it. Those are all the main things.
Yeah.
What's your cutesy name for, like, what's your Pick the Flick analog? Do you guys have a name for that tier?
It's just we just watched. I don't remember what we call it.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Good show.
We don't have like
Too
a
many
cool name.
podcasts.
Yeah. We don't have a cool name. We should
I
come
got
up with a
you
cool
both.
name.
What's next for Spiel Boys?
Oh,
Has
we
that been
decided
decided?
like literally days before.
Oh, okay. Great.
Yeah,
So,
I
anything from
Dave
the
asked
canon.
me this the other day and I froze. I think we said Close Encounter?
I think that was on the table. That was on the table for this last
I'm
one.
hoping
So
for
yeah,
that.
it's still in our mind. It'll probably
That would be
Close
phenomenal.
Encounters or something.
Hell yeah.
Um,
Somehow still underrated despite being so highly rated.
It doesn't get talked about as often. Yeah,
Not
it's-
enough, yeah.
I think maybe because it's an early one, but we'll talk about it.
All right.
we'll talk about it.
Well, stay tuned.
Yeah.
Patreon.com/smallbeans, patreon.com/gamefully unemployed, and you'll be abreast of all our great jib jab.
Yeah, also, I wanted to do just public service announcement. On the Small Beans Discord, which you have access to if you are a Patreon, and if you're having problems connecting that, just DM us on Patreon and we'll get you all set up. But on Monday nights at Pacific Standard Time, 6 p.m., Mike and I do movie nights where we usually watch a movie, possibly 2, or like a short or something. It's Monday, so we don't go late. But if you want to join in and we just talk over movies, kind of like, doing frame rate research. And we usually just watch movies that we haven't seen or we want to watch. We kind of curate it. But if you want to join us for that, feel free, because you can. If you're listening to this,
Please
you
do.
Probably already have access.
We've got the same 20 regulars in there every week who we love dearly, but it would be cool to have some weirdos stumble in.
Yeah.
Come on, weirdos.
It's kind of a cool little community that's happening. So hit us up. But other than that, thank you, Nerd Numbers, again, for the pick flick. People like you keep us alive. And
Control.
Anything else, Michael?
Alt. Delete.
Millennium.matrix out.
This has been a Small Beans endeavor. We're a bunch of pals who make podcasts, sketches, music, web series, and movies. The beans always have new ideas percolating, so make sure to check us out at patreon.com/smallbeans. That's patreon.com/smallbeans, where you can browse all of our current and past content, see what we've got planned in the future, and learn how your support can help the small beans grow into huge, giant monster beans. If you enjoyed this content module, please like, rate, subscribe, or tell a friend about us. We love you!